I love how you didn't tackle something simple.
If we're gonna do this, we may as well just go for it. We thought about other things, and then we just kept coming back to this idea. I think because it was so close to home and just felt like such a need to just do something around this subject. So I think that's why we just kept coming back to it. We're like, we just can't do something else. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and it was interesting when we first started talking to each other about this idea. It was funny, we both had very similar ideas independently and had never talked about it before. And then we just sat down, had coffee one day and just started talking. We're like, hang on a second, we are on the exact same wavelength here about this really specific topic. And we were like, why don't we do this together?
Yeah.
You've arrived at the Mental Health Spotlight podcast with therapist Kais.
I like the screen. I haven't had two people on Riverside, and it's kind of fun looking at you guys. It's like a little real meeting here.
Yeah, I like this. This is really cute. And I love your hat, by the way. And your whole image is just so bright. It's lovely.
I have issues with color.
Meanwhile, Roxanne and I are like, black on black, anybody?
Dark. It's never wrong.
Love it.
We definitely have a theme. Well, welcome, Megan and Roxanne. I feel like I know you guys.
I know, right?
I do, because I've seen your faces. I followed you on Instagram. Michaela's been, sharing not only the work you've been doing, but all about you guys. And I feel like we're old friends.
Yay! And likewise, I've been watching your podcast, and so I definitely feel like I've gotten to know you a little bit.
We're kind of connected, even though we're officially meeting for the first time right now. And I'm just checking one more thing before I start yapping even more. Okay, cool. I'm just going for it. We'll see. It'll be funny. If we can't hear me in the end and we can hear you guys, that's fine. I'll just voice
Love
over.
that. It's like a new format of podcasting.
Guess what the question was.
Yeah, guess what the question is.
Oh my God, I love that. And then the podcaster just shuts up and nods.
Yeah, exactly.
Less work.
Just saying.
Less work. I love that we all have you guys have pretty yellow mugs and I have my travel mug, so.
Perfect.
I did notice the other day we have matching yellow mugs, and I'm like, of course we do.
Of course we do. We're basically the same person. You'll start to
hive mind.
If you guys morph somehow into one screen in the middle, I'm down with it. I can handle it.
Yeah. Perfect.
I don't know what's going to happen today. But I know we're going to talk about some cool stuff. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I got to start, though, because we're over here, having our conversation. But I suppose I'd love to tell listeners a little bit about who the two of you are. I know there's directing and writing and producing and acting. Can you each tell me a little bit about what you do in the entertainment world?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Who wants to start? Roxanne.
Okay. So predominantly an actor. That's what I first started doing. I started at a little bit of a later age for acting, I guess.
So you were like 14?
No, I know, right? So you're like 11.
Right, I mean,
no, I don't know. I kind of realized that I really loved movies and had this realization, I guess, mid high school, but then didn't really do anything about it until after high school. I was just really scared to do it because I was a very, very shy kid, but knew that I somehow needed to do something in this world, but I didn't know how to because I grew up in Perth, away from everything. Arts is not important. There's no funding towards any kind of arts. So eventually I did my research. I ended up moving to Melbourne and taking some acting classes there. And then
in Australia, correct?
In Australia, yeah.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from Perth, so I grew up in Perth.
Well, I don't know where Perth is. Am I more?
Perth is on the no. Perth is see, that's how isolated it is. It's the only big city on the west coast of Australia. So you got Melbourne, Sydney, Queensland all on the east coast, and then Perth is its own little thing on the west coast.
So you're Australian anyways. You didn't just go there to hang out.
No. I was born in Perth, did all my schooling there.
Then you went to Melbourne, bigger city. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Exactly. Went to Melbourne when I was 20. Did about 3 years there, and then I ended up doing a short intensive for 3 months in LA through an Australian acting school, and ended up meeting a manager there who was like, you have a really interesting look, I really want to work with you. And he was the one that kind of told me about Vancouver and everything that was happening here, because I'd never even thought about Vancouver as a possibility ever. So then I went back to Melbourne for a month. I worked my ass off, saved all my money and just moved here. And I was like, best decision I've ever made.
Really? And so now you're in Vancouver. You guys are all stationed in Vancouver, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I've been here. We've both been, I mean, ironically, we didn't know each other moving over at all. We both moved from Australia within like 5 months of each other, I think. And then,
Wait, Megan's from Australia too?
Yeah, I'm Aussie
I didn't
too.
get the cliff notes. I was so busy watching Echo and learning about it. I didn't even pay attention to you as people. Okay.
yeah, it's fine.
People.
This is what we're here for.
Love this. Love this.
Honestly, hardly anybody knows because we sound North American, so no one really knows. We're kind of sneaky Aussies at this
We're
point.
sneaky Aussies.
Yeah.
One of those. I've heard of them. Yes, they're from Perth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah, so we've been here a little over 10 years now. And so it's been a while, but yeah, this is my home for sure.
Really?
So yeah, mostly acting, but then yeah, in the last couple of years I've just been, obviously with the industry being what it is, and you can't really control your auditions, what work you're getting or what's going on. So I've been like, I got to do something else here. And yeah, honestly, so thankful that Megan was feeling the same way, because I tried to write by myself and it's hard. Like it was really hard. So I like, there's no way I could have written this by myself at all. So yeah.
So you
That's
guys
a little
are
bit about me.
co-writers, helping each other out, but also sharing your stories and then your background on this.
Absolutely.
And we'll introduce Megan into that too. But that's something I caught with Makalya that's so strong, is you got to have a creative voice if you have people who need to create. And you found a way to do it your way and brightly. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Very, very
Yeah.
brave too.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
So
yeah.
you met the girl next to you, who's also from Australia, who now lives in Vancouver, who doesn't have an Australian accent. Okay.
That is correct. That is correct. The other one. Yes.
We're up to date.
But I'm from the East Coast. I'm an East Coast girl. Yeah, and similar, but I was the one who started super young. I started acting when I was like 10 years old in theater and things like that. And then I think I did my first film. I worked on Narnia for like a second because it shot on the Gold Coast in Australia. And I was like,
Nice.
yes, this is what I want to do. Yeah, and then did my degree in Australia, and then similar to Roxanne, my manager was like, you know what? At least get on the same time zone as LA. There's all this, brilliant work happening up in Vancouver, up in Canada. Why don't you give it a shot? And I was like, yeah, I'll try it out for like 6 months. 2 months in, I was like, I love this place. I'm staying forever. But yeah, I've been here for a little over 10 years and mostly acting, directing some theater. And then, yeah, this was I mean, we've collaborated as actors many, many times, but this is our first time co-writing together and co-directing together. So
Yeah.
So this is a big deal on a lot of levels, not just because the topic that you guys are grappling with, but for you as people in the industry, this is big. Like this was a big step for you. And I love how you didn't tackle something simple. Like the first 2 minutes of the short, I'm like, oh, they're going all in. They're going all in.
We thought about it. We had some silly other ideas. And then we were like, you know what? If we're going to do this, we may as well just go for it.
Silly later. Yeah,
Exactly.
Get the financial backing. Then you can do silly all you want, right?
Exactly.
That's exactly
right.
Yeah.
So that gives us... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Roxanne.
No, and I don't know. It just felt right. Like it felt like it was like we thought about other things and then we just kept coming back to this idea. I think because it was so close to home and just felt like such a need to just do something that around this subject. So I think that's why we just kept coming back to it. We're like, we just can't do something else. Like it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And it was interesting when we first started talking to each other about this idea. It was funny. We both had very similar ideas independently and had never talked about it before. And then we just sat down, had coffee one day and just started talking. And we're like, hang on a second, we are on the exact same wavelength here about this really specific topic. And we're like, why don't we do this together?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the topic, which we haven't disclosed, is eating disorders. And this is a really, really bold storyline. You mentioned a little bit about why it mattered. Did it matter to you because you wanted to get mental health out there, or did you have personal experiences where it was so important to share the story, or are they maybe different for both of you?
Yeah. I mean, I'll speak for myself personally. Like I went through an eating disorder, started as a teenager when I was 15. So most of my teenage, early 20s, even up to late 20s were in that space. So yeah, and then thankfully I've been recovered, I would say, for the last 3-ish years. I mean, it's always hard to say, right? Because it's such an up and down situation.
Linear, but 3
Yeah.
years means that you've got some solid recovery with you.
Yes, exactly. And I've also been volunteering with the Looking Glass Foundation, which is an eating disorder foundation here in BC. So that was a big step in being like, okay, I'm doing okay, because if I wouldn't be able to support these people if I wasn't, which was like kind of like a good mind set for me.
Agreed.
So yeah, that was why for me it was really important. I just felt like I was in a place where I'd been through the worst of it, knock on wood. And I almost felt like I can't have gone through all of this for nothing. Like if with all of that, I have to be able to do something with that. And then it just kind of made sense with art, because you tell stories. That's literally what we do. So, yeah, that's for me. That's why it was so important for me.
Yeah, and I say to people all the time who are on their recovery path, just getting into it, that one day your voice needs to be shared, because it is such a unique, such a challenging journey, that someone needs to hear what you learned.
Yeah,
they need to hear that you felt that pain, and you're doing that thing right now.
Yeah. So
I love it.
Yeah, but it's been an incredible journey. Thank you. Yeah, of course.
And me, what brought you here other than you guys had a cup of coffee? I would think this would happen over wine, but that's just my judgment. That you suddenly discovered you both cared about this topic.
Well, if Roxanne mentioned, we met after we both moved here. We met at an audition, and we became pretty fast friends. And it's funny, at the time, I was also struggling with an eating disorder, and we never talked about it. We were good friends, and not once did we ever talk about this thing. And then life and circumstances, and we sort of drifted apart for a few years, and then we came back together as really good friends, I don't know, the last 3-ish years, I guess. And it was like, oh, you were struggling, so was I, and we were able to actually have some of those conversations in depth, and also because we both work in film, starting to go, you know what, how some things are happening on set and the way that eating disorders are being portrayed in film is actually quite detrimental to people who are struggling. And I know for me, like, watching some stories and going, that is a shadow of what the experience is, and it does not honestly portray it, and it makes me feel like even more shame around this thing, and even more like it needs to hide, because, well, I don't identify with that is like the normalized version of what an eating disorder can look like, but the behaviors that I have and the symptoms that I have are just not at all accepted socially. And so I think that was a really big part of it too. We wanted to tell this story so that people who are struggling and their loved ones feel seen and understood, and that we didn't shy away from having the really hard conversation. We didn't want it to be like a really, nice, gentle approach to it. We were like, no, we're just going to be honest about what it is, and not solve it in 14 minutes.
Yeah. And it is ugly, and it is overwhelming, and it is not pretty. And I love what you said. Two of the things. One, that look how this lived in the silence, even among two friends. Like, isn't that crazy that two friends didn't know the space, and it wasn't a conversation piece? But also there's this concept that eating disorders look a certain way, and when people don't think they look that way, it almost creates this thing that I'm not sick enough and I'm not good enough, and wow, and that's what the media can create, and you don't want to do that. You want to be like, we know how bad it is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Toward that.
And like going back to not talking about it at that first moment when we first met, it's like, it's not that we didn't know, because we were very aware that the other one was struggling, because when you're in that space, but it's just, it was not an option to talk about it at all. But I
hope that changes for everybody.
Yeah, and that's why we wanted to do this. We just wanted to be able to have conversations around it. And so we had a fundraiser for our film, and some Looking Glass representatives were there, and just so many people were there. And it was fascinating just walking around the room and hearing the different conversations that people were having. And it was like, oh, thank goodness, there's a space here where we can actually just talk about it, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was such a breath of fresh air. It was kind of crazy. Like, no one forcing people to talk about it, but people just naturally feeling like they could. And I was like, this is the world I want to live in. Like, this is, why does this feel weird? Like, why is this weird? Yeah.
But I love how you said that, eating disorders don't have a specific look to them. I think Hollywood has presented them as having a look. It also has sort of felt like one of the last frontiers of mental illness that Hollywood's been okay to like make jokes around. And it's one of those things that we wanted to go, you know what? No, this is a really serious thing. And it's, the highest please correct me if my statistics are wrong here, but it's the highest mortality rate of all mental illnesses is eating disorders. And that's a stat that when you say it and people go, that can't be true. And you go, actually it is. And it's so hidden. And so there's so much shame around it that those statistics go undiscussed. Yeah. But part of actually writing Echo was we created a questionnaire for people who are struggling with eating disorders and then also their loved ones. We created 2 separate ones. Yeah. And sent to people who wanted to share their stories. And it was incredible. Like, we got so many responses from family members, from loved ones, from people who are currently going through it, people in recovery. And it takes all shapes and sizes. It shows up in so many different ways. And it affects everybody, regardless of your demographic, regardless of your size, regardless of where you grew up. And that's really important for us because we are heading into a feature film. And we want to explore so much more around the eating disorder illness.
Yeah, because this is 100%. The short that gets created. It's this, I think you said 14 minutes of powerful media, and we'll get into how cool the direction and the lighting and all that is. But then the idea is you put that out there and say, we want a feature. We need funding and support and tools for that. And is that what's next? And where does Echo go? And yeah, what's Echo's next step now that it's been made? Recently, by the way, you guys just made this.
I know, it's so fresh. It's crazy. We've just started applying to festivals, and it's just it's unreal.
You guys were fast, by the way. Like, I was watching, I was on like so the daily check-ins and stuff, and I was like, how did you do that so fast?
We had such an incredible post-production team. Like, it was crazy. Our editor, sound designer, everyone just rallied for us. Like, we're so grateful for them.
Yeah, we were really chasing some festival deadlines. Yeah. So we were like, okay, are you up for the challenge? And everyone just rallied. Yeah, we got so lucky. It was
awesome.
Yeah, you got to be part of the market. There's that. So
you got to. That's yeah. But yeah, from the get-go, we always had the idea of making it a short as a calling card to then be able to make a feature where we can really like dive in and explore, like we were just talking about, all the different people and bodies that experience this, So we have some ideas of how to incorporate all of that in there, which I'm really excited about. And in all of that, like, I'm excited to learn more as well, because I only have my personal experience with an eating disorder, which I think might be more, I don't want to say normal, but like, I'm a white woman of a certain age. Unfortunately, that's what it's classified as. But I'm really interested to talk to people that live in larger bodies, or, trans folk, which I know is a huge, or people of color and all of that, because I think that's going to be so interesting to like really learn. And I think that's one of the major things we wanted to do from the beginning, is like really like talk to the people, as opposed to like trying to like figure it out ourselves.
We didn't want to write our story.
No,
that was never. And I think because I ended up playing Lana, that there was a little bit of like, oh, this must be our story that we've written. It's not at all. We've definitely pulled from our personal stories, but we've pulled from so many different other people's from their questionnaires, because it's just wanted to just honor so many different versions of how it takes place. But I think having the feature film space will allow us more time to actually explore that.
Yeah.
But yes, like you said, exposure for sure around this short film, and hopefully get more eyes on it and more attention, so that people can get excited about it, so that we can hopefully get the support, the funding, the backing, the momentum to create the feature, which we're writing at the moment.
Yeah. And what's the industry like with this? I mean, we've all understand this was not something talked about 10, 20 years ago, more or less put in a movie. I think there might have been an after school special once. I don't know. I mean, something maybe, but so is it open? I mean, are you guys trailblazing something that's a little bit kind of tenuous in the market, or do you think people are going to want this material? Meaning the people that are going to make it happen, the money people.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're probably at the beginning of that part of it right now, because we've been so much in the creative part of it for now, which people have been so supportive and so amazing. Like, we managed to build such an incredible crew purely from people that were so passionate about the project and really wanted to work on it, on such a low budget that we had. So that was incredible. But I do think we're at the beginning.
Low budget, by the way.
Oh, that's honestly incredible crew. Like, absolutely.
That's the incredible crew that we managed to pull. Like, holy
yeah. So yeah, I think I think we're at that point now where we're going to start to see what the other side, the money side is, and what that, yeah.
I think in terms of like the actual conversations and things, I think the industry is starting to open up to having those conversations. But I mean, we did something that I've never seen on any set before. We had an on-set therapist, so that, you know, were anything to, I know. How
I'm tingling. Why was I not the onset? I'm going to talk to Michaela. I'm like, why was I not in Vancouver?
Did I come all the way to Vancouver?
Go for the feature, please.
I'm there, please.
Perfect.
But I love that you did that. Tell me a little more about their role, because that is a very unique thing you guys did.
Yeah, because, you know, there are intimacy coordinators on set, and that's there as like a safety net, as a safety mechanism for performers. But we wanted to open that up even further and go, what if we had a safety support for cast, but also crew around this subject matter that like we aren't shying away from. We are going to go there for 3 days, and it's going to be really uncomfortable. And, you know, it was just wonderful having that extra support there, knowing that if anything were to come up for anybody, that there was a safe person to just hold space for you, and who had exercises and things like that just to help regulate your nervous system. And she was wonderful. Like, she did some exercises at the beginning of each day with all the crew, just to get us all grounded and feeling good, and just creating that safe space. And yeah, it was wonderful. And I'm hoping that it becomes a more normalized thing in the industry.
Yes. What a message you got. Which the message you two put out was, we're doing this for the right reasons. Also, we have this person here because we want everyone to be able to talk and share and empathize.
Yeah, and that was a big thing for us from the get-go. We're like, we know we're writing this story that will be very triggering, not only for us, but for other people, because again, we don't know who's gone through what in their life.
That's right.
And there's no way in which we're doing this if it's going to harm anyone, because if that happens, then we're not, we're doing it for the wrong reason, you know, like then we're just doing it to make a movie, but there is an underlying reason, and it's to provide support and understanding for people and stuff. So that was always a big thing. It's just like, if it ever becomes too much for someone, then we're not doing this, because that's not worth it.
And then you have the supports. And that's what interested us at the Whole Institute, because you were saying you wanted to do this in a way that eventually is a panel setting where people can share, we can talk, there can be open conversations about this.
Yeah.
Because sometimes just dropping this out might be difficult without the resources at the end. And I heard you're really being focused on that and making it affect change, not just be a story.
That's right. Yeah. Because it's one thing to make, you know, an interesting, cool piece of art, which, you know, don't get me wrong, there were some very cool things that our crew members were like, hey, why don't we do X, Y, and Z? And it's just elevated the story so much. But really, we wanted just to be able to create a space where people can talk about it. But it is, I mean, we have been sending a screener out to a few people in the industry, and we're putting statements on it like, this is a triggering warning, like, please watch at your own discretion, things like that. Absolutely. And then there are resources at the end of the film, but also our dream is that when we do screen it, that we can have a panel there, we can have a therapist there, that we can be there. Yeah.
Table, right?
Perfect. To have that dialogue and go, let's talk about this, and let's make sure that everyone's safe, and let's make sure that everybody has the resources that they need.
Yeah. Because it's so true. It's just like, you can't just open that can of worms and then just like leave it on the people. Like, that would be so irresponsible of us to do. There needs to be a follow-up.
But I'm already booked. Really.
Exactly. Yeah, you're so welcome.
I'd rather work at Dunkin' and have no one need this help, right? So it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So the moral focus on it is primary, and to make sure that it ends there.
Absolutely. And we've been so lucky. We've had so much support from different eating disorder foundations, like the Looking Glass here, and then the Hull Institute. Yourself.
And we'll put these in the show notes. So anything that comes up, maybe even the resources, you can always give me those later. That'll be at the end. We can put those in there so people who hear this and think, I haven't even seen Echo yet, and yet I want to know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Absolutely.
So you had to kind of not tiptoe. I guess I'm thinking of almost like a little trapeze here, because is that trapeze? Whatever it's called, tightrope. Half of it is this like, here's this story, and here's what we want to do with a really tough story. But then we're really cool, creative people that have this great crew, and we want to really have some fun with it and do cool effects. And your sound, the direction, the look of it was really funky and cool and distorted. Can you talk to a little bit about how you were able to do both? Because it kind of blew my mind. I was like, they did it. And the sound, all the sounds and voiceovers and
God. Well, from the get-go, we were like, sound is going to be such a huge element because we were trying to find the best way to portray what an eating disorder feels like to people that have never experienced one. And for us, the first thing that came up was the sound of it, how it can feel so deafening and so like you're just not present. And there's just so much going on. So Dave Chick, our sound designer, just like absolutely nailed what we were looking for.
Oh my God. And in the end, when it gets quiet after all, it's like this crescendo, it's like an orchestra, and then it stops when the behavior enters, which is so true. And even I had, I was looking at it and I thought somebody who knows it, and someone who doesn't is going to be blown away.
That's exactly right. And I love that you pointed that out because some of the feedback we've been getting from people who have experienced that, they're going, oh my gosh, thank you for having that moment of we wanted to feel like almost like not euphoria, but relief and calm and peace when she engages in the behavior.
Right.
But then people who haven't had experience went, oh, I get it now. Because there's this sort of perception that purging is this really awful, painful, like, why would you do that? That's such a horrific thing to do. And like, of course it's dangerous and it's a horrible thing. But when you are in the throes of it and you're unwell, it actually is giving you a sense of relief and calm, and it soothes all of that chaos and like and we talked about like suffocating and drowning sound effects, and having that moment of relief was just like really important for us to honor what it actually feels like to have this thing.
Yeah. And then you find other ways to soothe eventually, but that's why it's so difficult to stop behaviors. They mean something. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well done, guys, with that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And then all the cool, funky colors, that was all our cinematographer, Rob. He had such a fun time with it. And we were like, we're here for it. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I also liked when something that we always talk about here are the voices. And you guys know you have a journey with this is the self-narratives. And they're your voice or someone else's voices. And they're just constant, like a marquee. And when I started hearing those come in, they were real quiet. And I was like, was that a voice? Was that a self-narrative? And then they built and they were distorting what people said. Really smart, really nice way to show, again, honor what's happening, but show other people what it looks like.
Oh, that's so cool to hear from you. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah. We had a session when we went into Megan's booth to record these voices. So she did some, I did some. And we were reading through these. We'd written them, obviously. We're like, this is dark.
Like Mean Girls.
What are we doing? This is awful.
And our poor sound designer must have just listened like 20 minutes of this horrible internal monologue.
We're like, Dave, are you okay? Like,
namaste. I think I texted Michaela and I go, "You're a mean girl." I've never, because I could hear her voice go, "You're not." Mean girl. But yeah, she knew herself, and the voices were mean, and you played them like they needed to be. They're not.
No, they're never nice. They're never nice.
Eventually they get nice, but it takes a long time.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think too, honoring that, like, there's this translation thing that happens. Like my mom, you know, because I'm on my own journey or whatever. And when I'm doing really well, she says, I'm so proud of you. And it goes through this translator, and that becomes, I won't say it in case it's triggering anybody.
I know what you're going to say though.
He translates it into, because XYZ.
Yeah.
Got it. And that something as innocuous and warm and kind from my own mother that's I'm proud of you gets translated. And so our lead character is walking through this party and everyone's just saying innocuous things and it's being internalized and translated as something else. So
yeah.
And don't worry, her video will work good later. If you notice it going out, if you guys do, it doesn't stay like that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, because Megan's frozen right there, but it won't stay frozen.
Oh, no.
I didn't want you guys to be like, oh, yeah, it fixes it. Great point, because it is a brain hijack. It's a whole nother storyline. They almost classified, or places have talked about classifying it almost on the psychotic level, only because it really does take over cognition. And what you're hearing and perceiving is so different. And you did that with the way you used the effects, so...
Oh, that's awesome to hear.
I was hoping for that. Yeah. I was like watching, going, come on, guy, come on. You did it, which is kind of nice.
Love it.
That's nice.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting. Like Megan kind of said, like, obviously showing it to people that have experience with eating disorder, but also people that have no experience with it as well, because that's going to be our audience for the most part, you know? And that's
I wonder though, so many people.
That's the thing. We don't know. We don't know.
Or know someone who has a story or who's had disordered eating or body image concerns. I don't know many people that don't fall under that.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
So you're gonna reach a lot of people. It may not be always the behavior side, but some of this language will reach a lot.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
How do you protect your own recovery in this? So you both are on your own recovery path, obviously doing well, very well. How did you make sure while you, especially for you, Megan, because you played these roles? Well, I guess Roxanne, you watched them, you played them. How'd you protect yourself in that? Gosh, I know that wasn't a question ahead of time, but I have to ask it if that's okay.
No, of course.
No, you can absolutely ask. No, it was something that, we talked about, right? Even when we were writing it, like that, it wasn't triggering, but it was hard. And we really and it was scary to write some of these things on the page, like some really specific lines of dialogue that were just scary to put on the page. But in terms of things being triggering for recovery, like I won't lie about it. Like this was a very, very difficult thing to do. The support of Roxanne, the support of Michaela, unbelievable. And also too, having her on-set therapist was a wonderful resource. But also too, my partner, my parents, friends and industry people who knew that we were telling this story, just checking in and all of that was really important. And I think just coming back to, leading up to it, we were talking about this project we were going to do. And I was having friends and people reach out and share their stories. And I had one person in particular tell me that he had lost his sister to anorexia. And it was heart-wrenching and awful and just such a sharp snap in of a reminder of why we're doing what we're doing. And that being able to come back to things like that and going, this is the purpose of it, that really helps to get me back on the straight and level. You know what I mean? Yeah. Going, oh, that's why we're doing this.
Mm-hmm. Your intention was there. You knew why you were doing it. And you were in a good place to do it, or it could have been different, right? You knew where you were.
That's exactly.
Yeah. It was, it definitely brought up things that I didn't think would be brought up, weirdly enough. Some things that I was worried about would be triggered weren't, and then other things were, which was very interesting. I think because I had been volunteering with the Looking Glass for a little bit, I already was in a place where I was hearing a lot of people's stories. So I had that, but obviously this was a lot more closer to home. So that part was a little harder, but I think similar to what Megan was saying, I would always, if ever times were harder, I would try to remind myself that if I'm not doing okay, I can't help anyone. And that's the biggest thing for me is it's if I'm not doing okay, not that I deserve to be helping anyone, but I just literally can't because mentally I'm not there, physically I'm not there. So, and then obviously my husband's amazing. He's always grounds me and he's a goofball and he's the best. But
he's your village.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously, like I said, I could not have done this without Megan. Having the constant just support and I think being so open about everything, just being whatever comes up, whatever it is, even if you're embarrassed by it or you're ashamed or whatever, just say it because there's no judgment on the other side. And you know that. And obviously sometimes it's still hard because your brain still goes there. But yeah, because there's no way I could have done this by myself. Oh my God.
Gosh, me neither. It wouldn't be a thing. We wouldn't be here if we couldn't have done this together.
It would have been a lot. It's almost like you were a closed and open set at the same time. Closed in the sense of intimacy and support, open in the sense of let's have it. Let's no silence in the shame in the silence. We're out there.
Absolutely. Which was so nice because we were speaking before about how we first met where it was so closed and there was no conversation and there was no openness. And now being on this side of it, I'm literally getting goosebumps thinking about it. I'm just total worlds apart. And
1970 versus the 2000s.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We talk now. Yay.
Yay! It's okay.
So much healthier.
And this is a testament to me as well to performers and entertainers, because the journey that you have to go on when you completely go into this insular set and do this work is intense. And it can be draining, especially on topics like this, so that people are willing to put themselves through that and do it. That's almost another branch of this. It makes you realize how hard that job is as well, just to do that.
Absolutely.
There were points where before we started shooting where Roxanne and I were like, should we just pull the plug? This is too hard. This is way too hard. Yeah, but then I don't know, the actual being on set and all
Yeah.
the post-production, like it's so worth it. And to
Oh
watch
God.
the film now while it's complete, the coloring is done, the sound design is done, and we watch it all. And we've been with the stories for almost a year now since we started writing it. And we still got shivers at the end because we're like, oh, this is all worth it. This was so, because you're right, it's so all encompassing. I feel like my friends didn't see me for 3 months.
And that's fair. Yeah. And
Yeah.
because of the hours and how quick you had to shoot as well. So you guys were
Truly.
all in with that.
Truly. Yeah.
Is anyone else, and I kind of mentioned this on the question just because I was curious, is anyone else doing this kind of work out there? Are there other, I guess I call it trailblazers that are maybe not eating disorder, but mental health pioneers like you? Or is this a really new avenue?
Yeah, I saw that question, and I was trying to think about it because I was like, it's a really great question, and I hadn't really thought about it. I
Because it's
can
not
say for
obvious,
myself,
I don't think.
yeah. And then I was just like, why do I have to think so hard about this?
My
Like,
point. Yes.
yeah. And I'm like, personally, there was no one that I was looking to being like, oh, we're gonna do the same thing as this.
Right.
We were totally just doing what felt right to us. And just wanting to tell a truthful story. But I mean, there's definitely people out there that are very open about their mental health journeys, like actors or whatever, for sure. But no one that I can think of that's actually putting it into
Yes.
their art.
It is
Yeah.
trailblazing for you too, then, because I didn't want to overshadow. Oh, maybe someone did something similar. I couldn't think either.
Well,
Not
now I feel bad saying this. Maybe there is someone obvious, and I'm just completely
well, the three of us
ignoring
aren't
them.
coming up with it.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
No, it was funny. I was thinking on this question too, and I was going, what filmmakers do I know that have gone, here's like a something that I can really promote and make a safe space to talk about it. But the one person that I couldn't stop thinking about was Simone Biles. And I know it's sport, not film, but I go,
Yeah.
holy smokes, like she made this a really acceptable thing to talk about at the height of her career and the height of her ability when I need to step away to make sure that I'm okay. And I just think that opened up a door for so many athletes, but also artists and everybody to go, it's okay to have the conversation and to tap out and go, I need to make sure I'm all right first.
Great
That's so
example.
true.
And to be human. At the end of the day, we're all human. Sorry, but we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still remember that Olympics when that happened. And I remember being so proud. And like, it feels weird to be proud of someone you don't know, but I was just like
I feel
so
like you know.
happy, Yeah, we all know her. She's part of all of us. But yeah, that's so true. It's just because you can't even imagine at that peak either. Like it feels hard as just in your regular life, but yeah.
And she proved it. She's after the last Olympics, she's like in your face, doubters and haters, because some people took that the wrong way, and it showed that her journey to heal really did, and then she came back badass. So,
Yeah.
hey.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the fact that it wasn't just a cacophony of support, that there were haters and shamers and doubters, I think that is exactly why it was so brave. It shouldn't have been brave. That should have just been the norm. But
it wasn't.
Right. And I'm like, well, this is why we need to be able to have these conversations, and why as scary as it is, as hard as it was for Roxanne and I to write this thing and to tell this story, that's why it's so important. And a filmmaker friend of mine, when we were writing it, he said to me, if it's hard to write, it's important to tell. And I'm like, right.
I love that. If it's hard to write, it's important to tell.
Yeah.
I love that's going to be our little tagline later. Thank you for my tagline. Done.
I love that.
That's beautiful. That really is beautiful. And you two are brave. I know you're both in this beautiful place of your careers, and instead of taking a path that was a little more, if we do this, it'll be really marketable, and you did something really poignant, and that is bravery. That's putting yourselves almost in the background of the story and then waiting to see what happens.
Yeah. And that was from the get-go. I remember when Michaela first came on, and obviously producer head, which we love her for. It's like, just so you know, if you choose to go down this path, it might be harder to get into certain festivals or to have screenings and all of that. And we didn't even have to think about it. We're like, well, we're not changing the story. Like, because if we're changing the story to fit in with the current structure, then what's changed? Nothing's changing then. And something has to change.
It was all about the very end. Like it was where it all came about, and Michaela warned us about that, and we were like, no, we're not gonna make that change, because that's it. Like you said so acutely, of like, it's not linear. It's not easy. You cannot put this in a box. There's no There's no quick, simple fix for this.
And none are the same either. Your journeys are probably very different as well. Everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you stick to it. You're like, oh no, this is the vision, and we don't get lost. We stay on our vision. We stay on our true intention.
Well, and it's because all the people that we know that have read the script or watched the film now who have experience with it have been like, thank you for your ending. Thank you for not opting and like taking the easy way out.
No Disney caravan coming out of the desert to save the day. Those can be lovely, but they don't fit. My clients would tell you. My clients would come after you and be like, yo, that is not how it happens. Recovery happens and it's beautiful, but it doesn't look the same. It doesn't look like you think, and it does not come right away.
Yep. And that's another huge thing. I think that's great that you bring that up, because it's just like, people always tell you, well, recovery's possible. And when you're in it, you don't believe that. You don't imagine another way of living than what you're in. On the other side now, I'm now the one saying recovery is possible, but I don't want to be that person. I want to make sure that yes, recovery is possible, but it looks different for everyone. It's not going to happen, like literally what you just said.
And it's not going to happen. You're going to go through. It's not
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because I think that's a more realistic way of looking at it, as opposed to just being like recovery is possible, and then there's nothing there, Yeah.
Well, we have to be honest. When I first meet people, I'm not like, oh, you've got this. I'm like, this is going to suck. And I'm really sorry. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. And you're not going to see hope, to your point. But I've seen people do it. And I've seen the other side. And I know it's over there. So you're being realistic. You're not telling people. And for people who don't find recovery, they deserve a story too.
Exactly.
Because 30%, 33% don't ever find true recovery. So you know what? That's their story also.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
How do we support this? How do people listening? I mean, you'll give me links and stuff, but are there ways for them to support and connect with this, not only with Echo, but with supporting Echo?
Yeah. Well, we have our Instagram page at Echo Short 2024.
That is correct.
Yes. I always forget if it's 2024, 25.
And I'll put Echo Short 2024, because that's when it began.
That's when we started. Yes. So that's the best way. We also are going to, in the next 2 weeks, start another little Seed and Spark campaign for our post-production fundraising.
Good. Put that on there too, then there'll be a link or something.
Okay. Yes, we can get you that for sure. And then there'll be a bunch of updates on there, a lot of pictures, a lot of behind the scenes videos, all of that fun stuff.
And then we just wait, don't we? You need the funding to keep pushing, but you wait through the festivals, which are happening like in the next year. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so it's a year, truly it's a 2-year cycle, but probably by the time we hit a year, we'll have a really good feel for who's interested and at what level and what avenues are potentially opening up for us. So any updates on festivals and things like that will all go on our Instagram and on our Spark as well. So if you want to just follow along and just keep up to date with where it's at and how it's doing, that's probably the best place to do it. But yeah, and coming up, we're going to be doing another questionnaire for our feature film script that we're working on right now and things like that.
Because you're already working on it, regardless of whether someone says it's a good idea. You're going for it.
Well, for sure.
Yeah, it's happening.
100%. It's happening. It's happening. Well, we want to make sure that we maybe potentially have, like, if it's not a full script, like a scene by scene or something when we do go to the festival, so that we can start, talking to people about it, get some interest spiked, fingers crossed. Yeah.
So it's happening.
Yeah, go from there.
It's happening.
It's happening. And I really love that in your notes you wrote something about a series, and then Michaela also mentioned this.
Oh my God.
And me and Megan were like, we'd never thought about making this a series.
We always thought of it as a feature film.
It could be both, but I mean, the stories are unending. You would have tons of different stories and levels, and to your point earlier, demographics, and wow.
Yeah, so that's definitely put a little seed in our brain.
My clients would watch it, even if it was like a YouTube series, but it wasn't even like necessarily on a traditional setting. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, cool.
If you're willing to do all the work, you'd have to do a lot of shooting.
Yeah. We're here for the work. We're here for the work.
Cleveland, just do one in Cleveland at least, so that we could come be voyeurs on the set and feel important.
I would love that. Let's go around the continent shooting different episodes.
Ooh. We're set.
Megan, I'm getting so many ideas.
I know, me too. I got real quiet then because I just went into 1,000 ideas.
So we need a lot of funding.
You're welcome. I'll bring my microphone. I'll follow
Perfect. Perfect.
But yeah,
Oh, I
funding.
love it.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
like all beautiful things, they need funding and finances, and that's the hard part,
Absolutely.
usually.
Absolutely. But we've been, so blessed already with the short and the amount of support that people were willing to give us. It was incredible. So I think we have high hopes. I don't know if that's unrealistic, but I feel it's better to have the high hope.
And you're doing something no matter what, because even
Yeah.
if it doesn't end up in the hands of someone who's going to do whatever we think it should happen to it, it's going to be out there.
Yes.
And eventually it's going to be heard and seen. And on what level is unknown, but you're going to do it.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was even the case with our short. We had no idea if people would support it at all. We had no idea. And so we sort of ended up with to the fabulous mind of Michaela, with 2 budgets, or like, what if we get everything we dreamed of financially for our short film? And then, the like, okay, we're just going to run and gun this and figure it out. And, we landed a healthy in between, which was really nice. But either way, the feature or the series, it'll happen. So
that's why I do the podcast, because somebody hears it somewhere and it matters. That doesn't have to be
100%.
line. Is
100%.
there a piece of advice that you would give to another person in the entertainment or film that wants to address mental health? Is there anything you've learned that you think would be nice to share with someone who is on maybe a similar entertainment, film, TV journey?
I think, which I briefly brought up before, but like, do the research, like really get in there with the people that are going through these things. However you can do that. If it is questionnaires like we did, or if you can get into clinics and speak to people in person. Because I think that's when you make the most touching stories, because you're actually getting a real person's experience as opposed to an idea of what their experience is.
It should be a given, but I'm going to guess it's not always done.
It should be a given, but I think just doing this, I think that's maybe why we've never had a real story about eating disorders, and it's never been portrayed properly, because the people making it aren't the people going through it.
Living. And that takes, again, it takes a special person to be able to do that.
Right.
Great point. I love that. Anything, Megan, that you would offer that you've learned for people?
I think what I touched on earlier, which is like, be brave about it, and just and as scary as it is, be honest and put it on, because I think if you give us something really specific and honest, it gives us as audience members something to hold on to and something to connect with. And the more specific, the more universal, as weird as that sounds. But like the real small details that we put into Echo are the things that people are able to gravitate onto and go, oh, this is real, and I feel seen. And so I think, just be brave in the storytelling of it. Don't take the easy road out. Yeah.
It's almost like the equation for recovery, or the formula for recovery. When you're saying that, I'm like, it kind of is what you have to do to recover as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. To do this well, you have to almost follow kind of a recovery path.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's a lot of work, but that's... Yeah.
You know what? And I'll say, you'll know this from the work you're doing here, and people in recovery know this in your past. It pays off in the end. When you do that kind of work, you get to save what you get. You get to save that resilience, that tenacity, that's yours forever.
100%.
And I think too, the other piece I would just say is like, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yes.
Just keep going. Because we had many moments of being like, all right, we're tapping out. This is too much, but keep going. It's so worth it.
Truly.
I love that.
Another recovery tip.
Oh my God, the parallels.
Stop. We sound so good. We're so genius here. I should have known. I should have just known. Next time we got to throw Michaela in here. Of course, the 4 of us talking.
That would be so fun. Oh my God. And you'd have like a 3-hour podcast.
We will never stop talking.
I can't edit all this. I'm like, I got to be under an hour. I got to edit this, I'm like you, doing it all in-house here. Oy.
Harry.
No, I love it. All right, my favorite, and I can't imagine what you two come up with for this, but a word. And I think I want the word to be for your own journey, because you both have a recovery journey that is behind this. Is there a word or two that would describe your recovery journey and where you're at now? I know. My favorite.
That's so tough.
I know.
It's so hard.
That's so tough.
I know, and you put this question on the list, and I know.
It's the very last one. So you know what? If you didn't get all the way down, I guess you got to think of it now.
Well, no. I was sitting with it for so long, and I was like, I think my really honest answer is painful.
Yeah.
Like, it's so painful because it drags up all of this stuff from childhood, from trauma, from self-belief, from self-esteem. Like, it's just so ingrained and it's so painful. And even on good days, for me, just where I'm at, it's not it's not a daily practice. It's an hourly practice, you know? And that even on good days when I'm in my recovery, it's still painful and it's hard. I'm not saying it's not worth it. It's so worth it. But I'm constantly working at it. And I think one of the things that I really struggled with when I was going through my treatment was, I think there was a little bit of false advertising of what recovery was. And so that now that I'm here, a big part of where I'm at now is going, I need to redefine what recovery is. And that it doesn't mean that I don't have the impulses and I don't have the thoughts. It's just that I don't act on them, and that I can live my life in spite of it, and that I can make my own choices in spite of it. And it's so worth it. And I feel like I'm putting a downer on this, but it's still painful, you know? I just want to be honest about it, because I feel like I was fed like, you know, the roses and everything's perfect and lovely and beautiful. And I'm like, it's actually just still really hard. And, you know, Roxanne's further along in her journey than I am. And so she's a very big inspiration for me. And so. Yeah.
But you always have to work at it. I love that you said that. Those body image, language, those things, they don't really go away. They just become a little maybe more fleeting, where you can flick it off you.
Yeah.
But it's still there. It's just like with addiction work. You always have to be ready. You always have to be careful. And that's okay. You just have to be super strong. Yeah. And painful is a good word. And you looks like you agree.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about it doesn't go away. It's still there. Megan had a really good way of, I think a friend of yours told you about the brain, like it's like snow, and then some runs are run over and over and over again. So it's easier when that thought pattern has run over and over your brain a million times. That's where your brain is going to go initially. And then recovery is hard because you're trying to make another
algorithm. Yeah.
Another one. But it's hard at the beginning because the snow's still really deep and you haven't started it off yet. But recovery is when that other one has gone over and over. So even though exactly, I'm butchering this, but
no, it's a beautiful metaphor. I love it. I live in Cleveland. That's a metaphor for here. It snows.
Wonderful. Yes.
Yeah.
But and I think that's what recovery is. It's like you might still get those thoughts and those impulses and whatever, but now the other side of the slope has deeper indents. So you're less likely to buy into those thoughts because your natural way of thinking is the other way now.
That's exactly, you said it beautifully. Yeah. That's retraining the brain. That's what we constantly yap about over here.
Yeah.
It's the brain already learned a story, and you know what? It's real smart. It doesn't forget its stories.
Yeah.
But you can put one next to it that's louder.
Yeah. Megan told me that the other day, and I'm just like,
beautiful.
That works for so many things.
Oh, I'm going to use it later. I'm going to sound brilliant in session.
Perfect.
Yeah. Excellent. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I need all the help I can get.
I stole it from someone else, so don't you worry.
They're going to listen to this and be like, how dare you, Megan, took credit for that.
It's all from the Buddhism and the
yeah, exactly.
We're stealing it all from like thousands of years ago, so it's okay.
Exactly.
I was just wondering, could I ask you a question? Is that allowed?
I think it depends. Do I have to answer?
Depends on the question.
Sure. Let's go for it.
Given yes. Given your profession and what you do and the people you work with, what would you love to see happen with a story like Echo, or what would you love to see in a feature film version, or how would you like that work to, show up for people? And I just want to, I would love to get your
And I love that question. I think some of it we touched upon, which you're already doing. And I have scrutiny. When I heard about this project, and I didn't know that we wanted to be affiliated till we read it. I think you were kind enough to let us see it.
For sure.
Because I want it to be real. I do want what we also talked about. If it is, there are places that are triggering, to make sure there's a resource. That's really important to me. So that way we know the intention is so people can find help, not just to leave somebody with a powerful feeling. So I think there being avenues for people to talk, to learn, to advocate. And I want this for education awareness, so that we see this story. And maybe somewhere in there we talk about how pieces of this affect everybody. It's not just the Lanas of the world. It's Lana's sister, who has a whole nother story because Lana's her sister. And I think I'd love to see that, just the advocacy that can grow out of it, which I think you're committed to, right? I get that sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
That's our,
that's okay. Was that okay?
That was perfect.
That was perfect.
I don't like it.
Well, Roxanne and I are actually we're starting up our own podcast, so this is a guest run. No,
you're our first guest.
I'd love to be a guest. I'd be like, wait, what did I just say? I don't remember what I was talking about, and that'd be okay too. I forget half the time what I'm talking about. That's why I have all my little notes.
Nice. Nice.
Did you want to share a word, Roxanne? I know I feel like I put you on the fence, but I don't want to not give you a chance.
Yeah, I feel there's so many coming to mind, but the first one that came up to me that kind of encompasses most things is trust. And that's trust in so many things. It's trust in yourself. It's trust. I honestly think for me, I started, and I don't know if this is just a coincidence, but my recovery journey kind of started when I got into a relationship with my now husband. Mm-hmm. He was the first person that truly started to make me believe that I was worth something and that I was worth, because I think that's a big thing for me anyway in my ED, was that it's just like, well, you're not worth like being healthy or being better, so what's the point in trying, and he was, and it wasn't overnight obviously, but he was the first one that, and I think it was just having someone that, like, it sounds so bad, but just like didn't leave, was just like, was just there, and was like, and he never had to explicitly say it, being like, I'm not going anywhere, but he's just always there. And that was when I started to very slowly over years and years be like, oh, I am worth something because this person who I adore believes that. And therefore, and it's never conscious, but it's when looking back on it now, I think, so I think it was a trust in others as well, trust in someone else.
Which should translate into trust into you, because eventually you should be like, of course I have self-worth. Exactly. Regardless of how you behave. And hopefully it grows into that. And I can tell it's growing in you. Trust is beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah.
Is there anything that you didn't get to say that you want to capture that I didn't hit upon before we let the computer finish its thing? Did I forget anything?
I don't think so.
We hit on maybe we can do one after, though. It might be nice after even after the feature, and see where we're at and what has developed out of it.
Love that.
Absolutely. I would love that.
Yeah. It's such an important story. I'm stoked that you two have put this together with this great team. It's beautiful to watch. It's just the visual of it is interesting. So I think that's going to appeal to a lot of people. Well cast, pretty much everything I would want to see on the production side, and a great story. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you so much for that. That means a lot to us. And the fact that we get to do things like this and, hopefully reach out to a couple of people out there, whether they're suffering or not, like that's exactly what we wanted from this. So
my clients will love this. They will be so happy to know that the community is embracing their story and in a way that's true and painful.
Yeah.
See how I did that? I know. So good. So good.
Yeah. So thank you for doing this and for having us on. Like, we really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Mental Health Spotlight podcast, helping you hold hope on your recovery path.